Oh man, super simple. There you go. Hey guys, can you hear me? Hello? Is your mic on? Hello? Can you hear me? Hmm. Can't hear you. Okay, I think I see your mic. Let me know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. How's everything?
Very good.
Okay, where's Aaron? Or
Aaron, where are you? He said his computer is having problem.
oh,
What
really?
did you say?
Oh, there you go. I think I see him now. Admit. Hello? Yeah, usually there's like the mic doesn't come on that fast. Let me know if you can. Hey, Aaron.
It should be on now.
Okay. Yeah, usually for my thing, it'll be good. Like usually I do like an intro first, and then like I ask the student some questions. If you want to do this, Aaron, yeah, it'll be good for I guess feedback, because then so for my lessons, I guess welcome to SAT, like new SAT prep. So like I was thinking with the time that we have, I sent you, Aaron, a few kind of like details. I would like to start with, as I remember you mentioned that you wanted to talk about writing or like the grammar. And then, so we'll start off with that. There's not much, I think, in terms of math, because I remember you're good at that. And then I'll check. I did get your, scan for the SAT prep test that I sent. So I'll review those if there's any weak points in math. But I'll put that as last, since you said you've been working with math a lot. But for the most part, most students really struggle with writing and reading. So that's why I wanted to put that up first. And some of these rules, technically we've known them for a while, but it's just very natural that we don't really, once we're set in like a testing environment, we don't really like break it down the way we would. Yeah. So from what I've seen in the past, it's always good to like maybe remind ourselves like of the rules, and then just in a way how like we break operations in math. We can also do that in writing or grammar. Just like following a set of rules and analyzing a sentence. So we'll go over that one by one. I'm thinking maybe 9 sessions of those, if not like maybe 6. We'll see what happens. If you get it right off the bat. And then for reading, maybe like 6 sessions of that, 6 to 9. And then the rest of it can be in math. So that should take us to December. And along these sessions, I'll be talking primarily for each one. I'll send you like SAT. For today, we're going to be talking about like grammar rules. But what I would like you to do, if possible, is can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Aaron is saying that these memorizing or trying to learn, going through these vocab words,
Okay.
those used to happen in the old SAT.
They used to have it in the old SAT. Yeah, I know. But like
Yeah.
for what I do now is some of these words might show up in the writing and the reading. So it'd be good to, yeah. Because like a lot of it is like it's like a catch-22. And
okay. But if it is in the reading, it will have some context, right? Before it
exactly.
used not to have context.
Exactly. So if you have context with the reading, some of these words might show up, and then that's what I mean. Like they don't have it specifically now, but
Right.
they've embedded it. They've embedded it in like the reading comprehension as well as the grammar. So like for me,
I
like
agree.
from what I did with my, because it is helpful. I'm actually really bummed that they don't have this part now, because you will use this in the future. I mean, if you're gonna go to grad school, you will get tested by your vocabulary. But yeah, like some of these flashcards, it's in here. So if you can, like most of these, they're kind of not that bad. I would just say just like take a look at them and day by day. And what I've had here is I would like you to do this like every session. Maybe this will become your homework. So like for the SAT, practice essay number 1. And what I'm trying to do here is at the same time, because like when you're writing something, you're also applying the grammar, and I'll try to check those. Like the way you're answering the prompts, I want you to use some of these words so that you can get used to, like, you know, like it's not just knowing what the definition of the word is, but also like applying it. And not only like in an essay, but because an essay is technically like the other side of reading comprehension. And if you know how to write, then you also know how to read and comprehend. So we'll take it that way. Like I want you to use some of these words in each essay, and this is gonna be every session. And I think I gave you this, so you can time yourself if you want. I think what I'm gonna do like mostly is I really would like you to focus on like building. You know, I don't know what your grammar skills are on, but like I'm gonna check how you write these sentences very carefully. You've probably seen this prompt before, but you know, like this is just, I want you to read this, and this passage, each one will talk about some particular genre, and then I want you to write an essay which explains how Paul Bogart builds an argument to persuade his audience, and then the natural darkness should be preserved. So I want you to read this, and then please, you know, do the same thing. Just send me a scanned copy of your writing. And for these ones, I sent this to you. You know, like you have this word list, group 1 to 10. If possible, and this will also help with like grammar. If you can write like for each one of these, like write a sentence, like using each word. And so, you know, this will help really apply like what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, like these two well, it's one assignment is writing this using some of these like words. And then the second thing is like writing sentences for these words from the word list. I've named them homework 1. So, and then the next thing here.
So does he have the link to
Yeah,
that
yes.
Quizlet?
I should have. I think I sent you guys the link, right, Aaron?
Okay.
Okay.
What did you say?
I sent you guys the list, right? Like for each folder, I think the folder has.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This guy, this guy, this guy, and then this guy. And then I have this guy, and this is gonna be the main lesson. But before we get to that, so like for each of my sessions, lesson 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna cover like a practice test, and this is like very much what it is. Like there's gonna be 4 sections. You have the first section is like, I guess I'll just go over some of this because I don't want to take up most of our time. But the first section is gonna be the reading, which we'll cover in the next session. And then like section 2 is what we're covering now until maybe like 2 weeks, is the writing and language. So let's see. So right here, the writing and language, this is where it shows up. This is the one I want to focus on mostly. Section 2, it's always between the reading and the math. And we'll attack this, but I'll just explain it. But you know, you can read this on your own time. And then like section 3 is math test, no calculator. This is not bad. These are there's some rules here that like mental math skills.
Mental math.
Yeah, mental math. You know how great that is. But you know, like I think this is even easier because now you get to use your calculator.
Right.
But if you
Some
have a
of
really good,
those kids are so used to not to use to their calculator these days, they can do mental math.
right, right.
So that will need some practice.
Yeah, as I remember, mine's like every time there's just those like simple like they made it harder actually. The SAT now has like a hard like it's more driven towards like math really integrated students. Before it was like an easier math, and I think it's probably because of this guy. But like if you're good in math, you're like as I remember, I think Aaron said like he's in is like pre-calc. Um, so I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's why I wanted to put this in the end because it's just very simple rules that you already know. But section 1 and 2 definitely.
I think guys probably need some to do some of that mental math.
The mental math. Okay.
Because yeah, I'm not sure how good it is in mental math.
All right. All right. Yeah, I can. We can definitely do some mental math. It's really simple skills.
Okay.
Okay. So basically this guy, but let me just share like my not this screen but my other screen. Let's see, because I wanted to mark a few things. Yes. All right. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Can you guys see the words clearly?
Aaron, can you talk, please?
Yeah, I can see them.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Aaron. So like, I just wanted to start with this before we get to like the SAT prep one. And then this is just kind of like guidelines. You know, I mean, you probably already went over like doing some practice exams for section 2. But I just wanted to go over like tips on how to attack these guys. So like mainly, we'll probably do this like in the next like 15 and then or 20 minutes, and we'll start out with like the first session. So this writing test, you're given like 35 minutes, 44 questions, and then you have to be ready in like what I usually do with like the writing portion. It's kind of like you're not really reading the passages all the way. There's parts there. What I usually do is skim, and then there's 2 types of questions that show up. There's the grammar question, and then the rhetorical. And then a lot of times, the grammar part, you can easily just like analyze the sentence, and when you know like any other like grammar question, and then apply like whether like all the grammar rules. But for the rhetoric questions, what you have to do is maybe go back, but most of the time that's like taken away is like the back and forth. So I would definitely like maybe you could technically read it, but read it as fast as you can, because it's not reading comprehension. You're not asked to like infer from the passages. You're just asked to like analyze whether a sentence should be there. If you are going to do a rhetorical, it's going to refer back to like another sentence. But if you're just doing like a grammar question, then it's just applying whether you know something is a past tense, whether you're missing a preposition, all these different tenses, which we'll talk about. But just be prepared to like pace yourself, because you only have like 35 minutes, and then you have to read 4 passages, and then 11 questions each. So that's a lot of questions, right? So for the most part, not everyone. For section 2, there not a lot of people really run out of time, because it's really just like it's very fast, and it really depends. It's on your like. I mean, if you're really good at like your grammar rules and you remember them back when you were in like K to 12, it'll be faster. But if you're blurry on them, we'll remind ourselves and just really focus in like just those repetitive rules, kind of like similar to what you would do with a math problem. You know how to like do arithmetic, and you've done them since like K to 12. But grammar, you also did that, but maybe not focus on it as much as like the math. So right here is just the writing test directions. This is pretty, this is what you see in the beginning of section 2. And the one I was like referring to is where does it say? So right here, edit to correct errors and usage of punctuation. So that's like a grammar. This is a grammar question. And then you also have these where you have to, and this one right here, direct you to a location or ask you to think about a passage as a whole. So when you do it like that, sometimes when they ask you a question about, like, it's kind of like reading comprehension in a sense, but it's not as hard as that. It's more like, does this sentence belong here? Or where can I place the sentence so that it makes sense? So, for the most part, you have to analyze whether that sentence explains the previous sentence, or does it have a good transition? These are questions you want to ask. And this is called a rhetorical. So you have this rhetorical, and then you have a grammar question. Two of these things are definitely the ones that right now, like we'll go about in like talking about the grammar rules, but and then first, and then we'll talk about the rhetorical later on. But as we like try to apply these rules in the practice test, I'll try to explain why something has to belong somewhere, or because the harder part here is probably this guy. There's not much rules in like besides like easy, like it's very qualitative. So this is very qualitative. So you have to really analyze if something is like a good transition to the previous sentence, or does it belong? Does it explain? Is it like does it have the same flow as like the previous sentence? For this one I can probably consider this very much like a math problem, where it's like quantitative per se. It's not, there's no numbers there, but there's rules. Like if you have a subject, you have a predicate, you have a verb, there's like specific rules. This one isn't really a specific rule. It's more like, so what I mean by that is the answer can be very hard to pinpoint to. Is it A? Is it B? And this one, it's easier to like eliminate some of them, the multiple choices versus this guy. So this one, there are rules though. So, but then not as much as this guy. So that's really the two different types of questions that will show up. Let's talk about like passage breakdown. So you know how you have 4 passages, right? And this can be like I said, it's not so much as much as the reading comprehension, but still it's a good thing to like depending on like an answer to a rhetorical, to know what is the genre, what is the genre of that passage. Is it a narrative passage? Is it informative? Or is it argumentative? And then you can have any of these with those 4. So like, yeah, you can say you don't really need as much reading comprehension here, but it's always good to practice reading as fast as you can and understanding, like pinpointing, because like if it's a narrative passage, then the flow of it is going to be different from an informative passage, and especially an argumentative. Maybe they'll provide like their thesis statement, and then they'll have like supporting statements after that. So knowing each one of those, or a narrative where you're just telling a story, like first this happened, second this happened, third this happened, and like maybe something informative, scientific, and this is like nonfiction. This can also have like a flow, like this can explain like the very first step that you do with an experiment. So knowing each individual one will allow you to infer, oh, okay, where does this sentence belong in like a rhetorical sense? And like some of these guys will have these different types of topics along those, like, narrative, informative, argumentative. And for me, when I usually read something, sometimes I gravitate towards like maybe 1 or 2 rather than the other. Maybe like more of like, I understand better the informative and argumentative, as well as like maybe not the history, more into science and careers maybe. What I'm trying to say is like a lot of us have like we have like a certain favor in terms of what types of genre we like to read, and when you like something, you understand it better, right? So like for the most part, maybe you shouldn't focus more on those, because this test is going to be very general. Like you're going to be tested in all of these. So even if you don't like history, try to engage more in that. And that's what I've done. Like because like when you don't like something, you don't like the passage, it's going to be really tough for you to understand the grammar, because you don't have any passion, and you also won't be able to understand like the context of what it's talking about, the topic. And then in the end, like the rhetorical, because there's a flow in all of these. Like a history topic is going to be laid out differently than like a science topic. So, and then we'll talk about like a lot of these. We'll touch on like different topics and different like types of genres, and see how we can tackle those. But in the general umbrella, and that's why I really would like you to do these like different essays and kind of like answer different prompts, because then, and sometimes in the beginning you find it like, oh, you find a difficulty in answering it. The more you do it, like for the first one maybe not so much, but then eventually, and how I usually write, and then gain like some affinity with these topics, the ones that I don't like, is just read more, read more like narrative if you don't like it, and read more history if you don't like it, so that you get a sense of how they're organized. And when you know how they're organized systematically, then you know how to really attack them, like the grammar questions as well as the rhetorical. All right. So, like I said, these questions will be 50% grammar and then 50% rhetorical. And then, you're gonna have these things in there. So we've already talked about that. In terms of pacing, yeah. So a lot of students usually, like I said, for section 2, the writing and language, it's not that bad, because from what I've already said, because less of it is very, you don't really analyze the whole thing, the each individual grammar. It's sometimes it's natural to just answer the questions, which is really good. So for the ones that you don't understand, like something that and for the SATs, like don't leave it blank, answer it to the best of your ability, because it doesn't count against you. So if you this is like very typical, if something you need to skip, circle and return back to it. Don't get stuck in it, because each one is just worth a point. So make sure you just return back to the ones that you get stuck. So maybe spend like 5 seconds. What I usually do is I enumerate priority. So there's 44 questions. Do them in sections, obviously. Like passage 1, passage 2. Take a look at the questions, answer the ones that are maybe grammar first, and then maybe put the rhetorical questions second in priority, because you have to read the whole entire thing to get like the context of the passage. So that's what I usually do. I'll attack the grammar because they're very just subdivided. It's just that like sentence. And then I'll do the rhetorical next, and I'll circle and return. So never get stuck, never ponder on like a question, because that would really cut up your time. And it's like a training too. For some students, they don't really like skipping something, and they want to do it in order. You gotta just train yourself to like, because you don't want to get bogged down. It's a time exam. It's just what it is. So never leave a question blank. So here are some tips and tricks, I guess, core strategy for like grammar, especially, and then and the rhetorical. Mainly, I would, you could do this on reading the passage if you're a fast reader. I'm just saying, like, skim through like the beginning maybe, and then the end, like the first sentence, second sentence, first sentence, last sentence, and kind of like the body, because you'll get kind of like a viewpoint if you read the topic sentence and then the conclusion, then you'll get kind of a viewpoint of like, what is this passage telling me? And if you really need to answer like a rhetorical question, then go back to like maybe like the sentence before that, or like the choices they have. Like if it's like sentence 2, sentence 5, 6, like that, then go back to that question and then try to see where you can fit. But don't read all the way, you know, and then analyze. Just read it once and then answer the question. And then when you get to the first, you know, box and this is like the grammar, you know, finish the sentence. So if they're asking you something about that main sentence, like that one sentence that they boxed out or underlined, make sure you just read it and then try to pinpoint like what the question is asking you. Like sometimes they'll ask you, should I replace this word? Should I replace this phrase? So, and then so you go to this question. That's one thing I would do. And if you have a grammar question, then as I said, yeah, it's just the context, right, of the sentence, not the whole entire passage. And if you have like a rhetorical question, this is like a harder one. You need to refer back to the paragraph as a whole. That's just you know, what you should do. And then what I would do is probably as I said here, your choice. This is how you assess it. Your choice is on topic and consistent with the paragraph's flow. So the topic, very qualitative. Paragraphs flow, very qualitative. The more you do like this, it's really just like, is it explaining the previous paragraph? Or if, like, what if like you're trying to argue something against it? So what if the first paragraph tells you like, I support that, and then the second paragraph tells you I'm against it? So, and then they want you to locate like a sentence that's like supporting it. And then this one is located on the second paragraph. Something's wrong. So you probably have to just move this to where it's supporting it, right? The first paragraph. That's really like how it is. Like, does it support the topic or the paragraph? And is it consistent with the flow? And the grammar one, this is where we kind of like break it down, because there's a bunch of like rules. Focus on eliminating. So this is like a standard rule. You know, when you do these things, you have to focus on eliminating the wrong answers first, and you have to do this not slow. You have to do this very fast. Like that's why you gotta like do more problems, because then you have to really know which ones are wrong, so that you know what the right one is. And this is what's called POE. I usually call this POE. It's like process of elimination. This is POE. And sometimes like you're kind of strapped between like two things, and this is really the time when you have to like dig down into your grammar rules and identify like which one can't be the one, and which one is left is the one that's the right answer. So, and then, you know, if you really get stuck still, this is like one of those where you skip it and then go back to it. So yeah, you go back and you check your answer. So that's really the flow. You should skim and read through the passage once. You know, and for the grammar ones, just look at it, and the sentence. And then for the rhetorical, just know, you know, briefly if something is supporting that first paragraph or the second paragraph, and then like kind of like locate where the sentence should belong. Standard process of elimination, and then circling the ones and skipping. And you have to do this like cyclically. You have to do this very fast, and just have a strategy. You don't want to be like stuck in one and like and be freaking out. That's the one thing you don't want to do. You need to be calm and then process. Like, you know, it's okay to skip a question. It's very much okay. When time runs out, you have like 2 minutes left, just guess on that question, that one that you circled. But make sure you answer all the easy ones first. All right, so this one, this is when we're actually getting to the actual like lesson. So like writing tips, or grammar tips. For the most part, this isn't like 90% of the time. It's always shorter is better. Like that. What I mean by that is like the shorter like counterpart. Because for the grammar question, they can ask you to replace it, a sentence, a phrase, or a word, and sometimes it may be too wordy. And if it is, then shorter is better. So shorter is better. Like if you were trying to eliminate any of the choices, qualitatively, you might want to look at the shortest one first, and then just check, the grammar rule after you do that. So you do this guy, and then check the grammar, and then if it checks off, that's probably the one. And then when you have time to review, like these guys, if your gut tells you that's the one, it's probably that one. But if you have time to review, the third thing would be just to look at the other choices, and then like pin them out, like eliminate them. But this is usually the route. Shorter is better, which is quick, and then check the grammar rule. And then if you have time, go back to other choices and confidently say that none of them are the ones, and so yours is correct. And then for this one, so a lot of times, like when, because this, it's pretty much grammar, and then a lot when you talk about grammar, for some reason other people have like different intuition than others. But like I said, like it's the same as like for math, it's so easy because it's like a very quantitative like rule. It's either that or not, right? Like you have 1 + 1, it cannot be 3, right? But if for grammar, it's like a very qualitative sense. Like, but in essence, it's kind of like, that's why it may sound correct. But it's not always like that. You have to be, what you have to do is you have to go back to your rules, and then support it. And that's why I said here, like shorter is better. Yes, that sounds good, but you need to support it with a grammar rule. And this grammar rule will objugate like, oh, okay, this is the right one. I am applying this correctly. Because like, oftentimes the way we talk, and that this is where a lot of that, I guess the disparity between like what is the right grammar. Because like, when you're writing, you use right grammar, but when you're speaking, this is when it gets lost. So now that you have to get tested on it, like it's not about the grammar that you apply when you're talking. It's more like the grammar you apply when you're writing. So, okay. Like in the process of elimination, this is your friend, the process of elimination, because there's always going to be a time when there's like 1 or 2 answers are right, and then which one is it? And then they give you this choice. Usually it's like so for the most part, like, yeah, I'll never like ignore no changes, because like it seems like it's so easy, right? Like why would they give you a question and the answer is no change? So like they cannot all be no change, but I don't always rely on this that much. But like, yeah, like that's why if it sounds correct, yeah, that's good, but can you support it? You'll probably get like, maybe for each passage you'll get like 1 or 2 of these guys, but just we'll go through it, and just for each rule, let's try to apply if it is actually no change. And so, okay, answer choice that correct the original, may introduce new ones. So so this one, sometimes when you pick something, like you're making something, you choose like one of the section, like one of the selections, and then it seems like it may be right. It's usually the one that doesn't make that much changes to what you're trying to correct. That's the one that I would choose. And I wouldn't read through like the the problem too much, it's usually like like I said, the shortest one. And if you can apply that grammar rule, like something you could apply one of the, like if you ask yourself, you could apply like maybe this one and this could work, but I wouldn't do that. Like I would go with like that gut feeling of, but with the support, you know, it's like a smart grammar rule based answer. And was it sometimes crossing out stuff in between? Oh yeah, this one I'm gonna do this. I'm hoping this is helpful. Like I'm annotating this. I would do this a lot. Like when you're attacking like a grammar sentence, then I would do this. I would cross out unnecessary words. So like maybe you've seen this somewhere where like someone says like this boy is a, you know, like a male, and then comma, he is coined, you know, he is known for his whatever that is, right? And then there's another comma. So inside that comma is something that you can definitely just cross out because it's just a description. It's just a modifier, right? It's just a modifier of whatever that subject is. So if you cross that out, well, we're gonna do that in some of these examples. When you cross that out, the sentence should still work. Like it should still sound and be grammatically correct. Oftentimes, the reason why it's there and they arrange the sentence that way is to just confuse you. But you could definitely just cross it out, and then still the sentence should make sense. So that's what this is saying. And like in general, every time you're doing a grammar question, you should always be annotating. Like what I'm doing here, you should be like you know, crossing out things that don't work, and you know, maybe this goes this way. If don't just read it and then like, okay, this is the answer. Usually when you do it that way and you're not marking it, because you can mark it, you're not marking it, you're gonna end up, because that's gonna be kind of like your gut feeling, you know, and then there's no and then when you sometimes when we think about an answer and we don't mark it down, it's harder for us to cross out the wrong answers if we just choose an answer without marking it. So annotate is your best friend. Being is almost wrong, grades, wordiness, and fragments. This one is like a specific one. We'll talk about this one if we encounter like a sentence. Like, you know, like when you say being or like to be, that's just kind of like those are unnecessary words. It's like, oh, it makes you like wordy, and like I said, shorter is better. So those words you can definitely eliminate, and you don't want to be choosing those as like your right answers. Okay. That's pretty much like my tips. Do you have any question, Aaron?
Specifically for transition sentences, like what specifically are those supposed to have? Because I know I had some problems with those. Like, is it supposed to sort of like restate some of the last paragraph and introduce something new?
Okay, that's good. I like that question. So there's actually, I think if the first one, there's a question on that one. So transition sentences, yes, you're correct. They're supposed to restate. It's like it's a transition. What it is though, is sometimes you know, the first paragraph can be like you know, for that, you know, the topic, and then the second paragraph can be against the topic, right? So it could be a transition, or it can be like a debunker. Like it could be against it. It's supposedly that first sentence as a transition is supposed to introduce all those like subsequent sentences after. So what I would do for that is kind of like maybe look at the paragraph itself, like all the sentences that come after that sentence, and then is it in line? Is that transition in line with the flow of the paragraph? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Like you have to take a look at like what comes after that one, because it's a transition. Like if it's supposed to restate, like for example, like if it's a middle sentence, if it's supposed to restate something that's similar to like the previous sentence, because it's gonna say should I put this sentence here? Then in that sense, you have to look at like the previous sentence and say, okay, this supports the same topic as the first sentence. And it's really just very qualitative. Like if it's like the first sentence, I would take a look at everything after it. And if it's like a middle sentence, and it's like kind of, it's like a supportive, you know, it's supposed to support the first sentence. Look at like the previous sentence, and maybe like the sentence after that. It makes more sense once we talk, once we see like an example. Okay. Did you have other ones besides those? That's actually a good one, because that's a very qualitative check, transitions.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good. Have you for these ones, I guess I'll cover this like just, you know, just to maybe, because it's good just to like talk about it. You've heard of fragments and independent clause?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, maybe we'll go through them, and then I'll ask you something. Let's see. So just to define it, like a fragment and an independent clause, they're kind of similar. You know, like this guy, a fragment, for the most part, it's just like a sentence that doesn't stand alone. It's kind of like an independent clause. Right? And then the reason why it's a fragment, because it's either there's no subject in that sentence, or there's no main verb or predicate. The essence of a sentence is a subject and then the main verb. If you're missing one of these guys, then it's a fragment. And then, you know, if you have this independent clause, like for example, when you say like, although this is the case, blank, then you have another sentence here, right? So when it starts with this although, or like because, or in, all these guys, it's always the case this sentence is in, this is a dependent sentence, and whatever comes with it after, this is independent. And we'll see that here. And then, you know, that's why it's like together, because then both of them can't stand alone as a sentence. So tell me, what about this first sentence right here? I walking. Is that a sentence?
No.
Okay, why?
It doesn't have like I am walking.
Yep. Okay, good. So it doesn't have there's not a main verb, right? There's this guy, the subject. But walking, like walking is what? Like, I mean, in essence, it is a verb, but it's not like, they call it not a main verb. It's not a predicate. Like there's no predicate here, you know? So usually the predicate is like the transition, like from that, and then there's a verb. So I am, it could be was, right? It could also be have been, had been, will be, will have been. This one, you don't know which tense it should be, because you have no idea what comes after this. It's just that person is walking, I am walking, I was walk. So it could be any one of these. So if you have like a choice there. But at the same time, you could also change the what? You could also change the tense, right? You don't have to add that, like am, right? Like that's another way, right? Like you could change the verb here.
Mm-hmm.
And to like, because this verb right here, every time you have this ing, do you remember like it's a progressive? It's progressive, right? This is like progressive tense because you have this ing. It's a continuous action. And so when you do that, like it's not a complete sentence. Usually, like when you're saying ing, it's like it's supporting another verb. That's another way of thinking about it. But once you have this main verb, like a present tense, like I walk, that's a sentence. I walked, that's a past sentence. I will walk. That right there is good. That's the main verb. So either one of these guys can be like a good choice. Okay, next one. What about this guy?
The same as before, right?
Yep. And so for the most part, like there is a similarity with these two. And you have like, you know, like this one is like plural, and then this guy is still the same as walking. It's still not the main verb. So I would do the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. You know, you could put, but now it's like not, you know, are, were, have been, had been, and then each one of these will work. Same thing. What about this?
It's missing a subject.
Yes, yeah. See, so like those things, like, I mean, this is very simple, like fragments, and then, you know, subject verb. But there are other rules out there that, like, they're very definitive. Like, if you're missing a subject, this is totally wrong. Like, you need to change it. So yeah, like this is definitely missing the subject is not here, which is supposed to be in the beginning, right? And then it's starting with a verb, so which is not a main verb. So subject is missing. So like sometimes when you that right there, like most of the sentences, they will not trick you, but oftentimes this is when you actually look at this. This is a limited, you know, like choice. You have a limited choice. So it can't be like a female. So that's when I look at that, the pronouns, a single male, and then, you know, he. You could say he instead, not like, you know, a noun. So he is thinking. So, but then yet you still have to add your predicates. And then, or you can do this, right? You can either do that, add the subject, that's the new one. And the other one, just to repeat it, is you could either just change the verb tense or add the predicate or the main, you know, is, was, whatever that is. What about this guy?
It's missing a subject again.
Perfect. Yeah. So this is very similar. So subject is missing, and then this one, this doesn't have to be a his. You know, like this doesn't even have to be a singular noun, because there's nothing in here that tells you, like, they could be we are working, right? So any of those can work. But like I said, like sometimes they will give you this, and this is when you really have to go and like, which one is it? If they give you like a she, then that definitely is, and that's your noun. But this is a his, so you can't do that. So it's just those things, you know, like layers. I would layer it. Like the first layer would be to look at the subject, and then where's the predicate? Where's the verb? Where's my noun? Is it matching with my subject? And let's see, this one. What about this guy?
It's missing like is between mansion and located. So it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah, this one, like let's say the mansion located on the outskirts of town. The mansion located, like it just sounds off. There's something wrong there. Like just like reading it. For the most part, yeah. Like yo, in between, because you do have, just to break this apart. So you have the subject. You have, you know, all of this is the if you're gonna say this is the predicate, but the predicate is always starting with this, you know, like this is, or whatever. So it's missing that. So that's how you always have to like kind of pinpoint that. It's like you can't just have that verb in there. You need to have that predicate word to transition into that main verb. This main verb, because we had this issue, it's not progressive, so it's okay. So we're good there. It's a past tense. So that's which from what we talked about, it can be one of those. It can be a present, it can be past, it can be future, but it can't be progressive. So what about this guy?
It's missing a subject and a verb.
Yeah, this one's definitely like one of like it's missing those two main parts. So the subject is not in the beginning, and to improve, that's technically, I mean, it is a verb, like you have improve, but you know, like the thing is there because that's kind of like supporting. That's like the not the main verb. What you, maybe he is improving, I am improving. You know, my SAT skills. You could also do that. You could take out the two. Sometimes you're like I said, the one if you're left with a choice where it both sounds right, it's the one where you're less likely editing anything. So for this one, maybe like when you're saying you're taking out the two and you're gonna add am, I am improving, or he is improving. Maybe that doesn't work as much as like just adding like a subject and the main verb. And if there is a question like that where there's two choices that are correct, I would probably leave that till like the last point. It's usually very clear for the most part if you just apply these rules. What about this one?
It's missing a subject and a main verb again.
Okay. So in France, after this one, like, you know, yeah, main verb and are missing, but it gives you a lot of info here.
Mm-hmm.
So when it gives you a lot of info, that's when you have to like be careful about like the choices, because then what maybe it can't be a present tense, you know, like maybe it can't be like a future tense. So this one is saying after the French but before. So that's like the context of that sentence says that it has to be maybe traveled back or whatever. So a person traveled back in France. It could be like, or they traveled back in France after the French but before Napoleon. So the context part is very qualitative, but knowing subject, main verb are missing, that's important. That will eliminate a lot of the answers if you know that part. And what about this one? This one, they kind of switch things around. They put that thing that's telling you that you have to eliminate.
Needs a predicate before playing.
Yeah. Yep. So that's good. So like for this one, you know how this whole thing right here, yeah, and the violinist, and you have this comma, and who trained with the great masters, right? That one is a modifier. Like there's no predicate in here. This is still the subject. This modifier modifies this subject. So modifiers, usually you can just X them out and the sentence should still be good. So if you read this as the violinist playing at the theater right now, that can work, but it sounds like something we've already seen. It's missing the main verb here is not present. This is a progressive. So we need to change this guy, right? This is kind of similar, but we do have a subject, so that's good. But we only need to change this guy. So maybe because it's only one. This is when it's like limited. There's only one. So the violence is playing, and then it's also saying right now, right? This is all context stuff. So right now you're limited by your, like if you don't want to just put in like is playing, you can say the violinist who trained with the great masters plays at the theater right now, right? Like plays. But so you could do that. Like it just really depends on like the context. The context part is a little bit tough, but that's like secondary. You should eliminate like the grammar rules that don't that are wrong first, and then go to like the context, and that they're gonna change your the tense of your verbs and whatnot. What about this one?
Remove and.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, we're almost done with this one. I'll show you this one. We'll do this one, and then I'll go to the practice one. So Steve Jobs, a visionary. This is kind of similar. So a visionary, inventor, and a businessman. And so and like there's an and here, which doesn't make sense, right? Like, so you have all of this guys are subject right here. This is still subject. So it looks like this is where the predicate starts, but there's an and here, and it's not comparing anything. We only use and when we're comparing something. And, you know, and then when we are trying to get, so what I would do here, yes, like the easiest one would just, if you remove and read it, like, so Steve Jobs placed many demands on his employees. This is not progressive, it's a past tense, so it counts as a main verb. So the easiest one would be just to remove this guy. Does that kind of like make sense? Like allow these rules for this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So let's try to go to the other one. Because since this is our first one, I don't want to go over. Just kind of just like maybe you can do it for homework. So if you take a look at the main practice here. And let's try to do like passage 1. So passage 1. Have you had a chance to look at this one? Like maybe I'll just like breeze through it, and then we'll start with number 1.
Okay. Okay, you can scroll down, I think.
Okay. Do you have this? I think I sent this to you.
Oh yeah, let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna like start with this guy.
Okay, would it be outweigh?
Yeah, good job. How did you like? I think this will be good to talk about it. How did you pick that and not these other guys?
The other ones didn't really sound right.
Okay, that's good. Let's I guess we can break that. So when you look at outdo, and then like defeat and outperform, it sounds like it's like a a competitive thing, right? Like it's something like one boxer is defeating another boxer, right? It's not that you're just comparing this the advantage of this guy with the drawback. And it's usually like defeat is like you don't usually use defeat for like an object. It's more of like a proper, like a person. Same with outperform, it's like a person thing, right?
Yeah.
And outdo is kind of like, it's kind of like outperform.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, yeah, that's why it's that way. Because a lot of these guys kind of like seems like it's more of like a person. Whoops. It's more like a person comparison. And then, so what about this guy?
B.
Oh, good. Hey, you're good at this one. This is correct. Why?
Because the paragraph was about like environmental things, and the rest of them didn't really have to do with the environment.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Fuel is the one. Environment. Yeah. You could. A lot of these are contexts. Like I said, it's like if you're good at that, like knowing that's the topic here, and then this is pretty much listing. You know, it's listing like a few of these. What can this guy do, right? So because they have a problem here, you can read into it more, but it says that they can add lifestyle as a protein supplement, and so that's like that guy. That's there. And this guy is like people can make their own Greek yogurt at home by straining regular yogurt, but it's not addressing this issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this one is like this one isn't addressing that issue at the previous sentence, and this is just another thing like out of nowhere. So it's not this one, it's not this one, and then this one is not good as well because it's talking about something else that's not part of like addressing the problem. So it has to be this guy. What about number 3? And I think this is a grammar one.
Is it no change?
Yeah. How did you do that one?
I knew it wasn't D because it says like if, which means it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
And I forget what it's called. B
This
was,
guy?
yeah. B
Yeah,
was
it's
incorrect.
possessive. Possessive, yeah. Okay. So these two actually, yeah, they both have that. So I'm like, it can't be those, right? But what about this guy? The other one, C. Why can't it be that one?
Is it like tense, I think?
Tense? Could have pollute. Yeah. It's this could have right here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause when you say could have, what is that? Like, what has to happen? That it's something from the past. Like, it's like inferring from the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have done this, but you didn't. You know, something like that. But this isn't. There's no context there. It's like improperly introducing an acid can pollute. So this right here is not a. If it's improperly introduced in there, you don't know if this happened in the past. It's if it happened. It didn't happen in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it has to be this one. The C or A could have been the one, but then could have is not the one because I think they call this like modal past tense, where it's based off something that already happened. But this didn't happen since it's an if, right? Okay. What about 4? This is another grammar one, yeah.
Is it C?
Yep. This one's C. Why not A, B, or D? It's obviously not D, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
these are the ones like, oh, you'd never do that. And then what about like, how come you can't do A? and then B. Semicolon and a colon, yeah. Why can't you do those?
For semicolon, I think you have to have an independent clause before it.
I think it's like yogurt. So when you read it, yogurt manufacturers, food scientists. That right there is independent. So, like, I think it's like after and government are also working together to develop additional solutions. So usually when I use this guy, I think it's like after. We'll talk about it more. Okay. It's the one that has to be like independent. And then if you have like a colon, what do you have to have after a colon?
A list.
Yeah, and there's no list here. So it's not that, it's not that. So it has to be C. I guess we'll go with 5. This is the difficult one.
It's 5.
This is the rhetorical one.
Is it after sentence 1?
After sentence 1, it could work. Yes, yeah, let's attack that one. So for this one, it's a C. After sentence 2, let's look at this guy because this is the common one. So after sentence 1, if you put it over here, if you put this guy, I meant over here. So let's see. So hold up. It's actually this guy. So this sentence 5 right here. So if it's improperly introduced in the acid can pollute. If you put it over here, you haven't really explained what this guy is. So it's more like it's giving you this guy, right? If it's the streams as this decomposes. So it's already giving you like an argument if it's improperly introduced in the environment. This should come first because then you're talking about like, it's kind of introducing this like acid way that's like difficult to dispose. And then this one supports it after that guy. So it could be 1 or 2. It's just very difficult to see where it is. But when you put it after, it makes more sense because it's like a support of like sentence 2.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you can't put it in the first one. And then sentence 3 is already talking about solving the problem. So you don't want to do that. This one is either one of these, but it can't be this guy. So it has to be this guy. Okay, I think since this is our first one, I think we're you only did you guys only want 1 hour? I forget if it's like 1 hour or 2.
Yeah, I think it's 1.
Okay. It's already past that. So I just wanted to introduce like what we're gonna do. Do you like how we're doing this, or did you want it to be more like, because like grammar wise, seems like you got it, but I would just like to, which ones do you want to touch more on besides like transitions? I'll go over them still. I think it'll be good to go over each rule.
Mm-hmm. I don't know which one specifically, but the practice problems are good.
Practice problems are good. Okay, so for the next one, let's go over. Do you think you can do this again, and then maybe, because I do have this as homework. There's 4 passages. Like maybe send me your solutions.
Yeah.
And then like write. Now, like, you know how we did here. How I got the answer, kind of like, and doing POE, and then giving a reason for each one. It's good practice to do that. Not just like, can you write down why it's not the answer, and then why it is the answer. Okay, so that's for section 2, and then what was the other one? Yeah, if you can like write an essay as well, just a short one. It doesn't have to be that long. And kind of just like, I just want to know how your writing skills are, and then like how using grammar rules. It's like good feedback to see, and if you want to use some of those words from the word list one from each group, that'll be good. I'll be looking for those, and just send those to me. And I think that we should be good to go. Our next one I think is on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll go with that, and then if we need more, just let me know. We'll go Thursdays and then Sundays, and then we'll start with this again, and I'll send you the session 2 stuff.
Okay.
I think
Thank you so much.
I think it's the way you guys went through this sample test. I think it's helpful.
Yeah. I think Aaron
So
likes
at
it.
least you could, at least for now, you'll be able to have a feel for where your strengths and weaknesses are, right?
Yeah.
So,
I actually, a lot of times that very first part, everyone, it's like a normal thing to know what the subject and predicates are.
right.
But once we like hit off the road, there's
Yes.
other rules that get very complicated, like prepositions, why they're there. But yeah, I think that's good. Doing the practice and the theory it kind of feeds itself. Thank you so much. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed it.
Oh, this is good. Okay, thanks, Paul.
Yeah, I learning,
And
and Aaron,
Thank
thank
you.
thank you very much. I'll see you on Sunday.
all right.
Okay.